Hey everybody, and welcome to Dominion Cards. This is the video series where we take a strategic, in-depth look at various cards from the board game Dominion. Today we're looking at Harem. This is a 6-cost treasure and victory card from Intrigue. It generates you 2 money, and it's also worth 2 points at the end of the game. Now, in terms of the pronunciation of this card, I looked up on Google and it seems to think that the British English pronunciation is harem, so that's what I'm going with. If you thought it was pronounced differently, then maybe it is where you come from, but I'm going to stick with what Google suggests is the pronunciation in England. So harem, many people consider it to be like a silver that is also worth 2 victory points while costing the same as gold. Now, if you've watched a number of my videos on the base cards or on Bandit before, you will know that I believe that gold is overpriced for what you actually get from it. And Harem is giving you even less immediate benefit. So normally gold is a card that you want when you want to maximise the amount of money you're getting in like non-terminal stop card form. And Harem is giving you 1 less coin than that for the trade-off of 2 points. So silver is generally considered much worse than gold. Gold is a lot better than silver. So a lot of whether or not Harem is any good is really going to come down to the victory points that it offers. You know, how good are those? Now, there are 2 situations where Harem is pretty clearly not better than gold. One such example is when you want to get a gold really early. Usually the reason why you would want a gold really early is because you're very deliberately trying to maximise that coin gain coming from a single card. So Harem's worse in that situations because it gives you less coin, and also it's going to take much longer for the points to pay off because the points are only relevant right at the end of the game. A lot of the time, it's just, you tend not to buy victory cards earlier on, basically. Similarly, Duchy is usually better if you're never planning on actually playing the Harem to generate 2 coins, and that normally means that you're never going to be drawing it, and you're never going to draw the card if you're never going to shuffle again. So Duchy will always be better on, say, the last turn of the game, or if you've got a slow cycling deck that's taking many turns to play through a shuffle, that could be a couple of turns before when you expect the game to end. So Duchy is, of course, both cheaper and generates 1 more point, and when points are the only thing that matter, once you're in that very late end stage of the game, you're going to go with the Duchies instead. Now, gold gainers, a type of card that you see every so often, they generally make it less likely that you want to actually purchase your treasure cards. So Harem tends not to be bought in the same sort of situations where you're never going to be thinking about buying a gold. There is a notable exception, which is Hoard from Prosperity. That is a card that you get when you want to flood yourself full of both victory cards and golds. And Harem is great when you've got Hoard because you get an extra gold along with it, and lots of treasures is sort of what you're aiming for, and also lots of points, and Harem's going to give you both in those. So Hoard's really nice with Harem, but otherwise, gold gainers, typically they are giving you the economy, and so you don't care about the economy part of Harem. You're not planning to buy it because you care about the money because you're getting that from other sources. So when we're looking to actually buy golds, when would we rather buy Harem instead? So this is all sort of to do with how you expect points to go in general. So as explained in the base cards video, games have very different sometimes expectations of what the point difference will be at the end of the game. So you can get games where the points are very close, and you can get games where the points are very far apart, even if the game itself was close. So for example, if you lose the provinces 5-3, then the provinces alone make a 12-point difference, and in cases like that, 2 extra points might not matter at all. So that's sort of a similar thing that Duchy has, where, again, and also a state where the points probably just don't matter. However, sometimes you get boards where it's difficult to pick up extra points. So if you have a single gain board, there's no cards that gain, and you've only got one buy, then you might find that actually it's nice to pick up a Harem over a gold just because it gives you those tiebreaker points. In single game boards, you have to spend an entire turn just to pick up extra points, so something that's giving you points and giving you some other benefit that you wanted anyway can be quite nice in those situations. Generally, you would buy the Harem when you might want to consider buying a duchy, but you still want your deck to be reasonably okay for the chance to hit province, so that usually means that you're provincing, but you're doing it pretty slowly for some reason. And you have to start getting duchies, but you want that ability to jump ahead. So it could be that the only reason you're not buying provinces is because of the penultimate province rule, maybe, and you're planning on going back and forth with things like duchies. But at some point it would be nice, like when the duchies start to run out, if you could jump back and build back up to province. Well, Harem's going to be quite nice in situations like that. You don't want too many over duchies, or else you do actually start to fall behind on points. But, it can keep your deck going in a way that duchy can't. It's also nice if stop card space is less of an issue. So if your draw is really, really good, you might be able to get away with the fact that you're just going to have slightly more treasure cards, and you're happy to just take the extra points in that case. Or if you've got a treasure-based deck, like a big money thing, in those sorts of cases, you don't care that you've got extra cards, you're still cycling pretty slowly anyway, and you're happy to just have a couple of extra cards just because they're giving you more points, and that's going to help a lot in those situations. Sometimes you also really just don't need the extra coin that you would get from gold. So imagine that you're looking to double province, you can draw your whole deck every turn, and you're getting 14 coins. Well, you only need 2 more, so you could buy a Harem over a gold, because going up to 17 coins per turn is just going to leave you with a coin that you don't spend. So you might as well just take the extra points. In that case, you're still adding 1 stop card to your deck, and the points are going to be better than the coin that you're not using. So people have done simulations around big money. It's something that's very easy to simulate, and there are a lot of results out there. Now, I don't tend to focus a lot on big money or simulation results in these videos, just because I don't think that's necessarily all that useful. They're useful to an extent, but a lot of the time games are very, very different from big money. And if you look at Harem in big money versus big money that doesn't buy Harems, you generally want to start picking up the Harems when you start buying provinces. So that means if you hit 8 early, would you prefer to buy a gold, or would you prefer to buy a province? And generally, if you answer that question as gold, then you would also want to buy gold when you hit 6. But if you would answer province, then you should be buying Harem over gold when you hit 6 or 7. So that's just what simulation results have shown. They say that in big money sort of decks, you kind of want Harem a little bit earlier than you might otherwise think. Now, it's also silver is generally better when your hand size is bigger, so Harem is also a little bit better if you're doing a big money strategy with some sort of terminal draw, like Smithy Big Money, and that's just because it's easier to hit 8 when you've got more cards in your hand. One of the reasons why silver is a bit worse than gold is just that it's harder to hit 8 when you've only got 5 cards in hand. But if you've got a much bigger hand size, then you can get away with that, and so the extra coin that you are not getting from Harem doesn't matter as much, and just having the points is nice in those cases. Also because many big money boards are just single gain boards, so again, if you're only gaining 1 card at a time, it's nice to get those extra points in where you can, while also getting your money generation. So let's not forget that Harem is a victory card. There are many cards out there that have synergies with victory cards, or even anti-synergies. There are a number of them, and I don't want to spend this video like going through all of them, so this here is nowhere close to an exhaustive list, but generally if you see a card mention victory cards, bear in mind that Harem is actually going to be a lot better than gold in some cases, especially the ones that let you draw more cards if they are victory cards. So for example, Patrol from Intrigue draws 3 cards and then will draw any victory cards from the next 4 into your hand. So if you have a bunch of Harems, Patrol can actually draw quite a lot of cards, and they're actually useful cards because you do get to play the Harems. Silk Road is an example of a victory card that's worth more for every victory card that you have, so Harems count towards this, so you can get Silk Roads to be pretty beefy if you're able to get a lot of other like functional dual type victory cards like Harem. Crossroads draws you cards for every victory card in your hand, so if all of your payload for money is in Harems, then the Crossroads are also more likely to draw you more cards, which is nice. I have an example here of an anti-synergy, Black Cat. This is a terminal +2 cards, but when your opponent gains a victory card, you get to play it from your hand, and then it won't actually cost you an action to use. Also, you curse your opponents when you do that. So even if the curses have all ran out, if you have something like Black Cat on the board and you're planning to buy a lot of Harems, you can help your opponent draw their deck pretty easily if you're just planning to spend a lot of turns buying a lot of victory cards. So cards like that are going to make Harem a little bit worse. Well, see, I've got an example of a landmark. There's a number of landmarks that like victory points, but this is just an example of one. It makes the first X number of victory points, or victory cards, just worth a little bit more points. And when Harem is worth 4 points instead of 2, that's really nice, especially because in Battlefield's case, you actually deny your opponents potentially from getting those 2 points. So like I say, way more examples than this, but just lots of ways you can see that victory cards in general can be quite nice. I didn't want to go into lots of depth and then repeat myself on every single video I do with a dual type of victory card. So we're just going to leave it there, but, keep your eye out, read cards and see if you can see if it talks about victory cards on the card. Just a summary of a couple more other points. So Harem is generally pretty weak in the absence of any synergies, like the things that I just mentioned on the last slide. It's somewhere in the bottom 10% of all Kingdom cards, and I would say in general Harem is sort of a similar power level to your base cards like Silver, Gold and Duchy. And those cards are pretty weak generally because the Kingdom cards don't necessarily get a look in if they're no more powerful. And that's the case with Harem. Harem is ignored quite a lot because it just isn't really that much better than what else is available, sadly. So Harem is just not purchased a lot, and that's fine. It's just a weak card, unfortunately. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over to the online client, and we are going to generate some boards with Harem on it. Now, bear in mind that sometimes Harem's only use, you might not consider it in your strategy until late in the game, so it could be quite hard to assess whether it's good in some of these cases, because it might not have any particular synergies. And so what do we have here? So something I've just noticed that's quite interesting, Swindler. Swindler could... Normally, gold is pretty safe from Swindler. There's nothing to turn it into. So if a Swindler hits a gold, you just get another gold back. In this case, you can actually lose points from your opponent's Swindlers if they hit your Harem and turn it into a gold. So that's sort of a disadvantage for Harem, subtly. You can just start losing points if your opponent gets lucky with a Swindler. There's also a gold gainer with Bandit and Courtier, so I feel like gaining treasure payload is not going to be hard here. So you probably don't want Harem with a combination of all of these things going on. It seems that Swindler in general is going to be quite nice here. Do you have draw? Yes. You've got a village? Yes. You have payload, you've got buy. So this is just a general engine. You've got to trash down with upgrade, and then eventually you're going to go to town with either Bandit or Courtier. I guess Bandit can also trash Harems, is also a potential problem. So Harem is just... There's a lot of anti-synergies with Harem on this board, so I think this is a general engine, and Harem is just going to lose out. So I'm not going to assess it any further, but I wouldn't touch Harem on that board unless it was really, really late and I had a reason to not buy it over Duchy. I suppose the Swindler can hit your duchies too. Anyway, sorry, moving on. We have Sentry for trashing, but I don't think there's any village that I can see. There is not. So, what are we going to do? Well, can we kick off Conspirator only with sentries and secret passages? And a Conspirator chain is only going to get us... Is it only going to get us so far? We could potentially have a Conspirator chain that ends with a Baron for a load of money. Can we get up to double province? Is that even worth building? Replace does mention victory cards. If we remodelled something that cost 4 or 5 into a Harem, it would give out a curse. Again, we have Swindler. If Swindler is the card that we decide to play, because we only get to play one terminal, you have the same problem where you can be losing points as they get converted into golds. We do have a gold gainer with Courtier as well that doesn't necessarily have to be terminal, because you could get plus action, but you're going to need to have it in the same hand as Harems, Replaces, or Swindlers. Is this just a big money thing? Is there anything that supports Duchy Duke? Because I don't see... the only draw is terminal with Smithy, and that ends your turn. So it doesn't look like... I mean, we could just do Smithy big money, and then Harem is okay, but does anything particularly support Duchy Duke? And it doesn't look like it. I don't think Sentry is necessarily that good with Duchy Duke. I don't think, unless I can gain a lot of sentries like there was Artisan, I don't see it as very good enough value, because you'd sort of want to be trashing your coppers, but you kind of don't if you're just going to go straight into a Duchy Duke slog. Swindler, how dangerous is it? So you could cause some problems by swindling 4 costs if your opponent has them. Are they going to have that many? Are there any bad 5s that you can convert duchies into? I mean, dukes on their own could be worse than a duchy. How many you got? I think I sort of like Smithy big money here, honestly. So I'm just going to open Silver Smithy, and I'm going to buy some golds, and then I'm just going to buy a bunch of Harems. And I think I'm just going to do Smithy big money, because I can't see anything else being that valuable. You could go Baron and try and get a bunch of these and trash down and generate a deck that plays a lot of these and then gets a big payoff and tries to double province. But I think with Harem as well, that doesn't feel super great. I think it's just a little bit too slow, possibly, because you can... If you get 8 early with Baron, would you really want to buy 2 of these when you could instead just go straight for a province? And the Baron's going to stop working at some point, so I don't really like that strategy. Okay, so I think this is just Smithy big money, and I pick up Harems as well. So Harem, like all weak cards, it gets better when the board is weak. And this could be a weak board if that's the right thing to do there. So I think that's what I do. What have we got here? We have Steward, Trading Post, and Upgrade all trash. We do have Ironworks and Mill, if that's at all relevant. We have no village is the first thing that I notice. So, with no village, what are we going to do? We can only play 1 card. Let's say we trash down. Well, so what? Can we get an Ironworks? Can we open like Steward, Ironworks, gain a whole bunch of Wishing Wells and just try to draw our deck with that? How are we eventually going to earn any money? Well, if we had a lot of mills. So mills are quite nice. I think I get an Ironworks and pick up mills anyway. I guess, how much do I care about trashing? I can see myself trashing with Steward, but then how am I generating economy to get back up to buying provinces? Do I care that much? There's no nice sort of economy in reality. Maybe I don't want the Steward. Maybe I open Ironworks and Wishing Well, and I would rather have a trading post. Or maybe I just leave a load of coppers in my deck, and then what am I playing instead? Council Room? Is that good? I mean, maybe, and then you can... I guess you can get a number of points if you're picking up a load of mills. The problem is, if I'm getting a load of mills and wishing wells, I actually don't want council room. I'm hoping to draw with wishing wells. The mills by themselves actually are the money. I was thinking, where's the money coming from? Well, it's coming from mill. So I may never bother with Harem. If I'm going to go Ironworks, wishing well, mill, I can use Steward to trash coppers. I can try and draw a lot by focusing more on wishing wells, getting some mills, try and draw to reasonable hand sizes, and then look to just buy one province per turn. How good is that? I think I would prefer remodel if I can get in the lead as a way to earn points rather than playing Steward as my one terminal. I mean, it's fine to have a Steward early, trash a bit, and then maybe I pick up a remodel and I can turn it into something else later. But what do I want? Like, do I care to upgrade mills into something? It would only be duchies. I don't sort of like that play. I don't think that's great. Okay, I think I open Steward Ironworks. I look to get some wishing wells and some mills. I will trash a little bit. I'll trash my estates and some coppers. Eventually I'll get a remodel, probably, although I'm not 100% what I'm going to remodel, but I might use that for some extra points later on. Maybe I can turn a mill into a harem for extra points with remodel. If I get in the lead, I can mill provinces. But I think that's what I'm doing. I'm not sure if I will get harem here. Maybe I get one late, or if I'm struggling to hit 8, but I don't think it's a cornerstone of the strategy of this board. So here we have Festival as our only village. We have Sentry for trashing. We do have Smithy for draw and also Courtyard. But with Festival, I prefer Smithy. So we can get reasonably thin with Sentry. We do have a Festival Smithy draw engine. And we do eventually have Conspirator as well. So it's not great to start out with. Is there any plus buy? Yes, there is Festival. I think... So we want to be playing Swindler as often as possible here. I think there are bad cards you can turn your opponent's stuff into. So, is turning their Smithies into a load of Conspirators bad? Is turning their Conspirators into a load of Smithies bad? Those cards don't seem so good, but hitting their Sentries and their Festivals and turning them directly into Dukes or something feels real terrible. So I want to be playing Swindler as often as I can. Again, if they try to go for Courtyard money and they try and get harems that could potentially be converted into gold and they lose points, or if they're doing that, I can turn their duchies into Sentries or whatever. So I really want to be playing Swindler. So I think I'm going to go to rush for Sentry. So I'm going to open with... Would I rather open Silver Smithy rather than Silver and Conspirator? I mean, possibly. I would rather get the draw up and then I get Sentries and I get 2 Sentries or so. And eventually I start picking up Festivals and then Smithies. And I'm going to look to draw a lot with that placement. I don't think Harem is at all relevant here. I'm going to try and just play a big engine. If I need some treasures, I would rather get it in the form of Conspirator. So I would ideally not touch treasures at all on this board, if that's at all possible. I would like to have 0 treasures. There's also Vassal as well if we run out of Conspirators. Yeah, so Harem is just no point on that board. That's what I think. So let's look at the last one. So here we have... There is Chapel for trashing, and there's also Trading Post. There is which there's no village, I have noticed here. So what do we do in the absence of no village? Is it just which? Big money? And because it is, I think we have to Chapel first. So we are going to trash down with Chapel. We're going to try and build up to get to it. So we're going to open Chapel and Silver, I think, and we're going to try and get Witch, and we're going to play Witch a lot. I don't know if I particularly care for Artisan. Harem might be better instead of Duchy for a while on this board. Once the witches have drained all the curses, I can see potentially picking up a courtyard on a dud turn, but I think that's about it for this board. Harem might be okay here. I might get one or two, but again, it's a fairly weak board, and it just might have a place towards the end game. But otherwise, it's not doing anything particularly flashy or exciting. Anyway, that was 5 Kingdoms with Harem. Harem, it's pretty weak. So, yeah, that's. I think I just said Harem. It's Harem, of course. Anyway, thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.